Fresh versus frozen food. Which actually tastes better? Fresh food is supposed to taste better. That's what most people believe. Fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, fresh meals. But here's the surprising question. What if frozen food sometimes tastes just as good, or even better? Fresh versus frozen. It's a debate that seems to have an obvious winner. We've been conditioned to believe that fresh is best, a mantra echoed from celebrity chef kitchens to our own family dinner tables. But what if that fundamental assumption isn't the whole story? It sounds strange, but many chefs and food experts say the answer isn't as clear-cut as people think. They argue that in the complex journey from farm to fork, the lines between fresh and frozen can blur, and sometimes the freezer holds a surprising advantage. Today we're putting fresh versus frozen food head-to-head to see which one actually wins when it comes to the thing that matters most to our enjoyment: flavor. We'll explore the science, the supply chain, and the surprising realities that challenge our perceptions. And the results might just change the way you shop for groceries forever. Our perception of this debate is heavily influenced before we even take a bite. Most grocery stores are masters of food theater, making the fresh produce section look like an edible paradise. It's a carefully curated experience designed to appeal to our senses. Bright, vibrant colors, perfect, symmetrical displays, the gentle mist that suggests morning dew on a farm. It all screams health, vitality, and superior taste. This visual marketing is incredibly powerful. By contrast, frozen food sits in a cold, sterile freezer aisle. Hidden away in opaque bags and boxes, it offers none of the sensory appeal of its fresh counterparts. There's no vibrant color, no earthy smell, just frosty packaging under harsh fluorescent lights. So, people naturally, and quite understandably, assume fresh equals better. Our brains are wired to connect that vibrant, fresh appearance with higher quality and better flavor. It's an intuitive leap, but one that overlooks the hidden journey of our food. But true taste, the actual flavor that explodes in your mouth, depends on several critical factors that happen long before the food ever reaches the store. It's a complex chain of events. How and when the food is grown and harvested is paramount. The time it spends traveling from the farm, sometimes across continents, the specific conditions under which it is stored to slow down decay, and finally, how quickly it makes that last mile from the shelf to your plate. When you consider this entire journey, you'll find that sometimes frozen food actually has a significant advantage. Let's break it down. Have you ever wondered why that beautiful, perfectly red tomato from the supermarket sometimes tastes, well, like nothing? The story of how it got to your kitchen is more complex than you might think, and it often starts long before the food is actually ready to eat. Much of the fresh produce we buy is intentionally picked before it's fully ripe. A vine-ripened fruit is delicate, sweet, and fragrant, but it's also soft and easily bruised. For produce that needs to survive a long journey, being ripe is a liability. So, it's harvested while still firm, green, and sturdy. Why? Because it has a long way to go. Farms often ship food hundreds or even thousands of miles to distribution centers. This journey can take days, sometimes weeks. To prevent spoilage during this trip, the produce is kept in climate-controlled environments, typically refrigerated to slow down the natural ripening process. Once it arrives at a distribution hub, it's time for a little bit of science. To get that unripe produce ready for the supermarket shelves, it's often exposed to ethylene gas. Ethylene is a natural plant hormone that triggers ripening, turning green tomatoes red and hard avocados soft. But here's the catch. Ripening on the vine is a slow, complex process where the plant channels sugars and nutrients into the fruit, developing a deep, nuanced flavor. Artificially ripening with ethylene speeds up the color change and softening, but it can't replicate that crucial flavor-building process. The fruit looks ripe, but the taste just isn't there. During its long trip and subsequent storage, the produce is also constantly respiring, essentially breathing. This process uses up the sugars and organic acids that create flavor. So with every passing day, the taste and nutritional value slowly diminish. By the time you finally see it in the grocery store, that fresh food might have been harvested weeks ago. It looks the part, but it's a shadow of what it could have been. This fundamental compromise in the fresh food supply chain is exactly where frozen food changes the game. Frozen fruits and vegetables are usually picked at peak ripeness, right when they taste the best. Then they are frozen quickly. This process locks in flavor. It also locks in nutrients. That's why frozen peas, berries, and vegetables often taste very good when cooked properly, sometimes even better than fresh versions that have been sitting for days. But taste isn't just about freshness. Cooking matters too. When it comes to vegetables, we're often told that fresh is king. We picture vibrant broccoli, sweet corn on the cob, crisp green beans, and plump peas, all bursting with farm-to-table flavor. But how much of that is perception versus reality? To find out, we decided to put this common belief to the ultimate test. We assembled a panel of everyday food lovers for a rigorous blind taste test. In front of them, 4 of the most common vegetables, each prepared in 2 ways. One from fresh produce, the other from frozen. Both versions were steamed to the exact same level of doneness, with no salt, butter, or seasoning. The only variable was their origin, fresh or frozen. The goal was simple: identify which they preferred based on flavor and texture alone. Many participants came in with a strong bias, assuming the fresh samples would be an easy winner across the board. The results, however, were anything but predictable. First up, broccoli. Visually, the cooked fresh florets held their structure slightly better. In the test, tasters found the flavor profiles remarkably close, but the texture was the deciding factor. The fresh broccoli retained a pleasant, toothsome bite, a firm snap that our panel associated with quality. The frozen version, while not mushy, was noticeably softer. For dishes where that crisp, tender texture is key, like a raw salad or a light steam, fresh took the lead. Next, corn. This is where the narrative began to shift dramatically. Our panel's preference was overwhelming, but not for the fresh cobs. The frozen corn was consistently rated as sweeter and more flavorful. This isn't an anomaly, because frozen corn is typically harvested at peak ripeness and flash frozen within hours. It locks in the natural sugars that begin converting to starch the moment fresh corn is picked. Unless you're eating it the same day it was harvested, frozen corn often delivers a sweeter, more intense corn flavor. The results for peas were even more surprising. It was a virtual tie. Our tasters struggled to tell the difference. Both fresh and frozen peas delivered a pop of sweetness and a delicate flavor. Much like corn, peas have a high sugar content that diminishes rapidly after picking. The industrial freezing process is so efficient that it preserves this peak state perfectly, making frozen peas an incredibly reliable and delicious alternative, indistinguishable from fresh for most palates. Finally, green beans. Here, the panel was split. In terms of pure flavor, it was another dead heat. But texture once again divided our tasters. Some preferred the firmer, squeakier bite of the fresh green beans. Others actually favored the more tender and succulent texture of the frozen beans, finding them less stringy. This revealed a crucial insight. The winner isn't just about a single metric. It often depends entirely on personal preference, and most importantly, how you plan to use the vegetable in your final dish. Taste is not just flavor. Texture matters too. Fresh vegetables often have a crisp bite. Frozen vegetables may become softer. For salads, fresh usually wins. For soups, casseroles, stir-fries, and sauces, frozen can work just as well. And sometimes you can't even tell the difference. This is why many restaurants and chefs use frozen ingredients for certain dishes. It saves time and still tastes great. Now let's talk about something everyone notices. Price. Fresh produce can spoil quickly. Frozen food lasts much longer. That means less waste. Frozen food is also ready to cook. Already washed, already cut, already prepared. For busy households, this can be a big advantage. And when frozen food is cooked properly, the taste difference can be small, sometimes almost none. There are times when fresh food clearly wins. Salads, sandwich toppings, fresh fruit snacks, anything where crunch and texture matter most. Fresh tomatoes, fresh lettuce, fresh herbs. Those are hard for frozen foods to beat. So the real answer isn't simple. It depends on how the food is used. So, which actually tastes better? Fresh food often wins for texture and crispness, but frozen food can be just as flavorful. Sometimes even sweeter or more consistent, especially when it comes to vegetables and fruits used in cooking. The truth is, both have their place in a smart kitchen. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think fresh food tastes better, or are you on Team Frozen? Comment below and tell us why. If you enjoyed this comparison, make sure to like the video, subscribe to Consumer's Choice Top 5, and share it with someone who shops for groceries. Because the smartest choices often start with simple comparisons. And we've got plenty more coming. See you in the next one.